what I heard, Friday will be 33 degrees. So.
Right.
Yeah. We'll just wait for 2 more minutes and then we will start.
Yeah, super.
But Michael, I think you have a presentation. I think you probably can share the presentation already.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. So, can you actually see that decently?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, good. And don't worry, it's very short, very short.
Yeah, guys, I think we will get started. So I will start by introducing a little bit the Skåne Startup. So my name is Zhenni. I'm the CEO of Skåne Startups. We are a startup community building organization built by entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs. And one of the key things we do is connecting founders like you guys with global investors. And I would like to start by having our co-host today, Martin, Erik, to have a quick introduction of who you are and what you do. How do you work to support startups? Martin.
Yes, my name is Martin Backlund, and I work as a business developer at Invest in Skåne, which is the official investment promotion agency for the Skåne municipality in South Sweden. And we work very actively, of course, with the ecosystems and with the incubators and so forth to see what kind of innovation we're having in Skåne. Our main job is to promote Skåne innovation, Skåne startups, and Skåne companies in order to attract investment to Skåne. And we do that by keeping an eye and by picking up and by also working with venture capital, make sure that we present our opportunities in the best possible way. And I would say that Skåne is a fantastic place to be. We have a long culture of being innovative and being one of the more innovative regions in Europe. And we have a very nice cooperation between our universities and our private companies and our public sector to make sure that we take care of the innovation that comes up and present it in the best possible way.
Yep.
So that's a little bit of my job.
Thank you, Martin. And we also have Erik from Liang Holding. Would you please tell us a little bit of who you are and what you do at Liang Holding?
Yeah, of course, and thanks for having me. I'm Erik. I'm responsible for all the tech investments and the tech portfolio at Liang Holding, and we are governmentally owned but controlled by the university. So we help researchers fund and start companies that we later invest in order to sort of promote transfer of knowledge and findings from the university into society by mostly building successful startups.
Yeah, thank you, Erik.
If you want, yeah, no worries.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about why Skåne is such a good place to invest in. And I think we have one of the world's best universities, at least top 100. And we also have something called the teacher's exception, which states that all university employees own their own research. And this makes it so that we have a really, really high degree of sort of startups coming from the university. The rest of the world is more focused towards licensing deals in their technology transfer, but we focus more on startups and sort of world-leading university, a lot of professors looking into startups, as well as lower valuations than at least Stockholm. So I think Skåne is a really good place to look for good investment opportunities.
Thank you, Erik. And we have Fredrik from SEB. Would you please, tell us a little bit about how do you work to support startups?
Yes, thank you very much. Great to be here. Yeah, I'm working with entrepreneurs and scale-ups, but I also work with funding of startups. So basically from
Can everybody hear Fredrik? We lost Fredrik. Well, that's what happens during the Zoom meetings. We will have Fredrik back and later talk a little bit more about SEB. But the reason why we're here today is connect you guys to Michael, but also help Michael to understand a little bit what.
Zhenni, you're muted.
Okay. Yes. So I'm back.
It's when Fredrik's not muted, the sounds get weird. So Fredrik has to be muted, I think.
Yeah,
okay.
Fredrik.
Yeah. Sorry about that. No, so we work with entrepreneurs and scaling companies, basically from the startup phase all the way up to IPOs. And we work both with the founders as well as the corporations. So we believe that there's a need for a holistic approach to taking care of not only the company's ability to scale, but also the ability as a founder to sustain your interest in the company and maintain control in such a way that it motivates you to stay in the steering position of that company for a longer time. Because after all, in early stages, it's the entrepreneurs that is the biggest assets, not the ideas or the actual corporation. So we want to make sure that they are heavily incentivized to continue to run their companies. And we do it with different types of programs. You might have heard of greenhouse, which is like, it's like it sounds. It's a greenhouse, from ensuring the right fertilizer, the right soil, the right UV lights, everything to basically support you. And when SEB is not sufficient with the Wallenberg network, then we connect you with partnerships and structures to make sure that you get the need that you have. For example, if that's an internationalization, we help to seek founder capital into the new markets that they enter into as well.
Yeah, thank you, Fredrik. Yeah, thank you. So in the next 35 minutes, we will start with our investor chat. Can people hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so feel free to click. There's a raise hand button to raise your questions. Michael will start a presentation, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask him. This is your chance to learn from Michael. Michael, feel free to get started.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to you all. And as said before, don't worry, the presentation is very, very short, so that we can actually dive into the questions and have a conversation. Very quickly introducing myself, I'm Michael. I'm also with startup background. I helped build a behavioral retargeting company in Germany in the mid-2000s. We scaled it to roughly 100 people before selling to DT. Company is still up and running and very healthy today. Had a short stint at the corporate strategy department of the Otto Group that quite recently saw the success of About You going public here in Germany, and then became a VC back in 2014. And since early 2016, I'm with DTCP, working as a principal now in the growth equity team. Today, we're gonna quickly talk about how to get funding outside of the big hubs like Berlin, London, and Paris and the like. But to give you a nutshell in a nutshell, what we do at DTCP in the growth equity team, here we are a global SaaS investor. We invest out of our second fund currently. We invest up to $30 million in venture and growth capital in predominantly B2B SaaS companies in Europe, USA, Israel, and South Korea. We have local teams on the ground in each of these regions to make sure that we have the best means to connect our entrepreneurs in the relevant ecosystems there. And yeah, obviously, we're very proud of our portfolio, both the ones that we already exited, as well as the ones that we still are working with. And typically, we like to get engaged at Series B or later, and can invest though all the way up until the pre-IPO round. For example, Liang is a company from Germany. We led the Series B in 2017 and are still happy investors with the company. Whereas Fastly, for example, we led the pre-IPO round back in 2018. That is the very short version of the DTCP growth equity part. Now, how to get funding outside of hubs? I think especially in Europe, there is no shortage of capital anymore. The amounts invested are constantly growing. Capital is becoming increasingly flexible with French funds investing in Germany and vice versa. And it's also becoming more global, especially 2020 and the first half of this year saw a significant increase in funding that also came from the US. And I don't want to say thanks to COVID, but certainly one consequence of COVID was that building relationship with founders and deal sourcing from the VC perspective is now went on to Zoom, like a conversation like we're having here now, which is leading to the fact that it is irrelevant where you are at the end of the day. So you really don't, from that perspective, you really don't need to be in one of the hubs to attract good and global investors. And I think if we look at just a handful of examples of companies that already prove that you can raise decent amounts of money and have runaway successes, this provides a short overview with Liang and Pipedrive, that companies that we both invested in, but also startup staff base in Chemnitz that recently I think became a unicorn as well. Instana that sold to IBM, if I remember correctly, last year. These are all companies that are outside of the hubs, but were able to attract very good investors and create a lot of value in this respect. And why is it that you actually don't need to be in one of the hubs? Let me start with how do you actually attract international VCs easily? The first thing is to network. I think this is what we're doing here. Meet people, engage with them that are outside of your local region, build up a relationship and have regular exchanges on that. Conferences, as soon as we can actually go back to conferences, are obviously a very good mean to do so as well, especially since all international investors are at the big conferences. And so it's a very good way to condense lots of meetings with all kinds of investors within 2 days. What is very important there, prepare and do investor due diligence. Really see what is an investor that you want, what do you want from an investor, what do you need, who could be able to provide that, and then check if you, at least to a certain degree, match their investment criteria that is either available online or that you've heard of from other companies that are already in their portfolio and the likes. And looking at what criteria investors typically have on the left-hand side, these are the general criteria that at least to my knowledge, 99% of investors are looking at, and the importance of each of those varies from stage to stage. But overall, it's about the people, the team that the investor would invest in. How good is the product? How differentiated is it? How good is the traction? How big is the market? And what does the round typically look like? These are the key questions that anybody has on the top of their mind. If we narrow that down a bit to DTCP, we are looking for companies that are in a Series B. I don't know if you can call it a Series B today anymore, but at least companies that are above 5 million in ARR, that post very high growth, that have SaaS as a recurring business model. We tend to stay away from hardware, to be quite transparent, but we love to see a proven and scalable go-to-market strategy that has reasonable underlying efficiencies, where we can simply help in taking that global and scale that further. And that's combined with an overall good capital efficiency with the company. And the main problem with startups in regions outside of tech hubs is that we might not know them. That is, in fact, the only issue. I can say for sure we have never not invested in a company because it wasn't in Berlin or London, for that matter. So we are happy to go to remote places as well, because it's about the talent, the team, and where it is, and not necessarily the address. So all in all, I think the key takeaway is if you're not located in one of the key hubs, that should not be an issue, because investors are looking for you and are very happy to invest in these areas as well. That is the very short overview, and I'm more than happy to now use the remaining time to, well, be there and answer actual questions that you might have.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Feel free to unshare the screen. Yes, I will start with my first question. Is that I think your team has two different strategies, which is growth equity and digital infrastructures. And why did your team decide to set up two different strategies, and what are the differences between those two strategies?
So the digital infrastructure team, you could say, is more towards, or to take a step back, we were initially spun out from Deutsche Telekom. And Deutsche Telekom still remains an anchor investor in the growth equity funds as well. And here at the beginning, the question was, how can we best, or in what ways can we leverage the access, the talent, the knowledge, and the asset that we have thanks to that LP. And two strategies came up. One is the growth equity team that we currently talked about, that looks at software technologies, but does not have any strategic implementations. We can invest in companies that are close to CT or the TMT sector, for that matter, but there is no need for that, not at all. And from structural setup, we to a majority own ourselves as well, which guarantees that flexibility and autonomy to try and pick the best companies from our perspective. With the digital infrastructure fund, that is, you could say, more of a private equity play that would do late stage buyouts. So they would not do early stage investments. Typically, they can look for controlling stakes and are your typical private equity shop in that respect, where they also leverage the assets of DT in a bit of a greater extent than we would do at the growth equity team.
And guys, feel free to click the raise hand and ask your questions. But yeah, I will continue with my second question. Is that I read that your growth equity runs a dedicated strategy for your enterprise SaaS, and you guys have this investment process called no emotion investment process, very analytical approach. Would you please explain to us what does no emotion investment process is?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find that out myself, because so far we didn't have a funding process that was without emotion, and I think it would in general be also a bad sign if that was the case, to be quite honest, especially in the earlier stages. But having said that, we are what is true that we are very numbers driven. We are very analytical. We developed our Flightpath model, where we developed, you could say, a general P&L framework in which through which we run all the numbers that we get from each and any company. Now, having done this over half a decade, gives us the opportunity to have a very thorough data set of companies from Series A all the way to IPO, and see what, on a comparable view, what does a typical or good company look like in each and every given stage? How high should growth be? What are specific efficiencies that you see? How is net retention in general? And we automated that. So within getting the numbers, it's, I would say, a 5 to 10 minutes effort to really get a very granular view on the numbers of the startup and immediately unearth, okay, these are points where the company could put a bit more focus, or where we can help the company maybe in fine-tuning a bit of the things. These are certain areas that are going very, very well, also in a comparative set. And so from a numbers perspective, we get a very good and very quick and very thorough analysis and feeling of, is this a high potential company or not? And this is what we refer to with the analytical approach, that really is data driven and automated, and as it should be from our perspective. Do we, despite all that, still have an anti-portfolio? Yes, we do. But at least we're trying to eliminate the error rate as much as possible with that approach. And I think so far, looking at the portfolio, it's worked quite well.
Yeah, I'm just wondering that. Yes, Jonas, please go ahead.
That's fine. My name is Ulf. That doesn't matter, but we're sitting on his Jonas. Anyway, how many have you been investing in Sweden before?
Ask me that again in 1.5 hours.
Okay.
Or 2.5 hours.
Okay.
But currently the answer is no.
Okay, super. So you're into the tech industry mostly, or is it? I saw this chart there, but is it mostly tech industry that you're investing in?
Yeah, we invest in the tech industry. We only invest in software businesses, for that matter. So quite naturally, it's only tech, where we focus on the key verticals on a very high level would be AI, BI, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and IoT to a certain degree. And anything that would not fit these verticals, we are happy to run under enabling technologies. But in short, yes, we only invest in technology.
Okay, thank you.
What kinds of different things can you help out with apart from capital?
So there is a few lines. One is, as I told you, I come from the startup world myself, and this is true for, I would say, 90% of the team. So we've all been entrepreneurs ourselves. We've been where you are. We know the headaches. We don't scare easy. So because we know it's a tough ride and things always burn and go wrong. That's just how it actually should be. So we try to be, in a positive way, the sounding board that you can actually turn around to and ask for advice and help you and be calm in tough situations. That I think is one part. The other part is, thanks to our network from our anchor LP, but also from our other LPs, we have, I'd say, a global network of large enterprises where we can try to open doors, speed up sales processes on occasionally, or actually do business with our LPs. Some investments lend themselves better to that than others, but I think overall our portfolio made over 500 million in revenue with our LPs. And so there is proof points to the fact that this works. As said, it doesn't work for each and every of our investments, but for many it does, and obviously it helps. And we have a strong alignment of interest as we come without any strategic hooks or warrants for that matter. Any dollar in ARR helps because it increases the valuation, and that is that. And obviously the other part mentioned before, we have really local teams on the ground in Europe, Israel, and the US. And this local network helps And if it's just, hey, what's the best place to actually open an office? Can you take a look at that CV? Is that actually a prime candidate? Do you know anybody in your network who has been working with this person or not? And this obviously is a bit easier if you are from that area than if you would be a German expat sitting in the Silicon Valley. And so these company building, sales enablement, and operational guidance or help from a localization perspective, that's the key pillars, I would say, that we're trying to work along.
Thank you.
Thank you. How is the stake that you take when you invest? I mean, how big is it? I mean, how does it work? I mean, is it a small portion, or is it? Do you want the major point, or?
Well, if you ask me, it's always too small. But no, I'd say it varies. We don't have that specific target ownership where we say we need to have 20% or we walk. That's not the case. We're flexible in that. I think the key point is we are a minority investor. We don't seek majority positions. We don't seek controlling stakes. So we are classical VC in that perspective. And I would also say, I mean, we talked about check sizes. If you invest at a pre-IPO round, typically your stake is slightly smaller than when you lead the Series B. But we're flexible in that. We'd rather be on board with the great companies than miss out on any chances because of that.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, I just want to go back to what you talked about, the Flightpath, the evaluation tool. I'm just wondering, can you give us like a specific case or elaborate that a little bit more? If one of the startups, in the discussion today will be approaching to you, how would you use that tool to evaluate the startups?
What we typically like to do, and that got, at least so far, was very well received. We do our analysis, and out of that, you have, I think, 8 or 9 PowerPoint slides that have a summary with a benchmarking how the company across growth, efficiency, and the likes fares against the top quartile of companies at that ARR stage. And then we break that down into quarterly numbers and look at each of these items on a quarterly basis and annotate that and use that for the discussion with the company when we dive into the financials, where we say, okay, based on the financials that you give us, we would see that there is, I don't know, an issue in sales because either sales cycles are too long or market needs still education, because the sales efficiency is not where it should be, or when we see that the land and expand motion is not how it should be. Is that due to your pricing model? Does the product not lend itself to that? What are the reasons for that? And quite quickly get into a good and operational conversation with the company in a very transparent way. We don't try to hide anything. Even if we don't end up investing, that conversation at least gives something back to the company because it gets a feeling, okay, this is how they look at our numbers. Because if you're the startup, all you typically know, or what you mostly know, are your own numbers. And what you lack is a bit of orientation and guidance. Is that good or is that bad? And if it's good, how good is it? And we aim at providing that transparency also to the companies. And obviously, it helps us on identifying very, very quickly on what to address with the company and if this is something that we really get interested in or not.
Yeah, thank you. Eric, you have a question.
Yeah, I have this impression that software SaaS companies, $5 million plus ARR, fast growing, that it's an extremely competitive scene for a VC. There are not that many companies that fit, and the companies that do, they can sort of not pick and choose, but they they have options. Is this correct, or would you describe sort of the scene in another way?
No, that's spot on. I think when I started in VC, it was still custom that companies came to your office to pitch. It's been a while, let me put it that way, because as you say, there is no shortage of potential funding. Good companies are aware of that, especially in Europe. What we've seen over the last years, if not 5 to 10 years, is that you have your second or even third generation of entrepreneurs who've been there, who've done that. And when they do angel investing, they immediately enable you as a founder to get access to other funds that they've been working with before. And so, as you say, competition, especially in that bracket, is very, very tough. But that's also okay. I think the key value from at least from my personal perspective rests with the founders and what they build. So I don't see anything wrong with them having the opportunity to actually find the best partner for them. And if there's competition on the VC side, that just enables that you try to stretch a bit more and actually help them and have a positive impact on them. So, but yes, competition is very tough.
And another question, maybe not on the same topic, but hardware. Why not?
It was a conscious decision at the beginning when the fund was set up, where I said, okay, what is if we do that fund, or if we set up that VC, what is our focus? Because I think as with startups, the same is true for VCs. Focus can be a good thing, we settled for software and SaaS as we saw a great opportunity there, and also the opportunity that it's actually interesting how comparable metrics are across various industries in the SaaS. If you have the SaaS business model, that you have a good way of knowing your way around quite quickly. Whereas with hardware here, it's that knowledge gain is not as easily repeatable at least from my perspective. And so that also means that you cannot help your startup as much as quickly because you need to educate yourself to a larger degree every time again. And it was just a matter of focus out there. I don't think there is anything wrong with hardware. I think at least once a year I try to get a hardware startup through in our fund. But yeah, so far success was limited, but it's okay.
I don't think the competition is as hard there.
That the question is why.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. I'm just curious, like your team invested like $65 million of investment in Series C to a company, a cloud-based voice platform called Aircool. You guys been following the company for many years, but you invest in quite later stage. Yeah. I'm just wondering that what made you guys decide to invest in the company and why now?
I don't want to say because the stars aligned then, but I think it's quite typical that as a VC, you try to build a relationship with the company that you invest in and with the founders for a longer period of time, because it gives you a good feeling of, okay, the founder said, I'm going to reach that target within 12 months. And you talk to him 12 months later and you can see, okay, how close is he actually? So you get a feeling for how reliable is their planning and what the company says. And it's not a one-way street. For the founder, it's also the ability, okay, if I've been talking to this guy for 2 years, have the occasional question or ask for help, did did that actually materialize, or was it just marketing that was put up there? And so it's not untypical that we have a longer relationship with companies before we invest. And in some cases, it's simply that we talk to them ahead of them actually reaching the stage where we can invest. So we already talk earlier than that. And it's just a matter of timing, I would say. So it just happened that at that point in time, it fit and it was good. And we're still very, very happy with that investment.
And the four founders are still in their early stage. What would be the right time to approach your team?
Founders in the early stage, I would say, so having a general conversation, simply to get to know each other and do a bit of sparring, always feel free to reach out. We're always happy to engage and have that conversation to get to know each other. If you think about funding, I think at 2 to 3 million in ARR, from then on it makes sense, because then it becomes visible that typically I'd say 8 to 12 months from that point, you enter into that stage that enables us to invest. But general conversations, always reach out. We're always happy to get to know people and talk.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes more before we jump into the pitching session. Do you guys have any more questions? Okay, then I have one more question. Is that you guys have offices, in Germany, Tel Aviv, and also California, but you also set up a shop in South Korea. I'm just wondering, what was the reason that you guys have an office in South Korea as well?
That was the opportunity that one of our LPs in the second fund is from South Korea, and so we thought, okay, this might be a good opportunity to get exposure also to that market and see how that works, as the Asian market works in very different ways than the European market does, and create learnings there, and get a feeling for how is the ecosystem there, what types of investment can be made there. And we're still, I'd say, early in this journey. So anticipating the question for expert advice, maybe we have that conversation again at a later point. But that was the reason from that perspective.
Yeah, and who are some of your LPs, if you don't mind, share with us?
SK Telecom.
Yeah. Okay. Does the founders, do you have more questions? Okay, then I have another question. Is that what are some of the common mistakes that you see founders approaching to your team when they're approaching to you guys? What are some common mistakes?
The only part is where it becomes difficult is when it is clearly off our investment thesis. So it's either B2C or D2C models. It's absolutely hardware heavy business. Then we simply don't have the flexibility to invest in that company. So that would be the only mistake. You can't call it mistake in that sense, but then it becomes tough. We're still happy to have a general conversation and get to know each other, but the question, will you invest in us or not, that answers itself rather quickly at that stage then. Other than that, so far I haven't come across founders who were indecent by reaching out, or we don't need numbers in specific form, shape, or color. So it's very hard to make a mistake in that sense.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. I think we'll get ready for our next session, which is pitching session. And we'll have our first founder, Venya, to pitch. And each founder will have 5 minutes. I will control the time here. So when the time is up, I will tell you. But Venya, feel free to share your screen. And after the pitching, we'll have a 5 minutes Q&A. And Michael, you can feel free to ask questions. Other founders, and the co-hosts, feel free to ask questions as well.
So my voice is a bit sore throat, so sorry about that. Yeah, let me start sharing the screen and scaring Michael off straight away, because that's the way I can. Let's do this. Do you guys see this?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Should be now like this.
Yes, we can see it.
You see the presentation, right?
Yes.
However, you see really in the middle of it, which is really not what I wanted to say, but hi. So my name is Vanya. I am the CEO and founder of Koitech. And we are actually a spin out of Sony, and I saw the Sony name somewhere there, and very kind of related to what Mike was saying that we did with the Deutsche Telekom. And I'm here today to talk about actually something that we all are a bit bothered about. You know the thing when you are running out of battery? I mean, you all have experienced it one way or the other. You might have also swore about it, but you have also probably accepted it. And this is something that is perhaps fine with you as a kind of end consumer. However, for a company that just purchased thousands of the sensors for, say, monitoring, like within the Internet of Things space, this is just not acceptable. And this is has nothing to do really with battery, because most of the people will say, oh, well, you have to have a big enough battery, or you have to have a really the greatest battery out there. But the fact is actually that what is happening is that the developers and hardware manufacturers, they are not really seeing the realistic, like what is actually happening in the integration between all these different parts of the technology today. So they are not really picking the energy source for the right usage of that application or that specific device. And you would think, well, we are so advanced in our technology, why are we not doing that? Well, the reason is actually quite simple. They don't have the right tools to do it. And this is where we come in, because we are seeing this huge problem with traditional measurement and tools, developer tools industry. It is amazing. It's a really underlying one to do everything that we have today. However, certain parts of it are very traditional. It's all about complex, expensive tools where few people can use them, and they should preferably have a lab coat as well, and also be in a big company. And obviously the developers today, they don't work that way anymore. And this is the reason why we created something extremely useful and necessary, like it's an everyday necessity for any type of developer, not just that hardware specialist, but through the whole stack. We're talking about embedded engineers, we're talking about software engineers, app developers, and so on. It is OTI. It is the next generation of energy optimization platform, and it's something that it is created for the new type of thinking, new types of companies, in ways people are actually doing product development, hardware as well as the software. So it's a very easy to use and very accessible type of tool. It's something that you click within a few seconds, and it's very comprehensive. So even that hardcore specialist that I was talking about before will still be very impressed. Yet you will also put it into hands to a software developer who actually never thought that a line of code can ruin the whole thing from the energy perspective, and they can still use it in a very easy way. And this is what we have been really important for us, because we are selling OTI as a standard solution, an OTI ARC, one-time purchase cost, and it's out of the box, you start using it. But if you really want to go into depth in automatizing your different types of measurements, if you really want to know what is happening, then you have to add additional software modules, OTI toolboxes, on a yearly or a monthly basis. And of course, the market that we are addressing is really, really big. I mean, it's right now serving about 19 million developers and still growing. They are very much spread out of both of the hardware and software and embedded. And it is something that is really very much riding on two macro trends, which is IoT, obviously, and a lot of autonomous devices, but also on the battery energy management. I think most of you are very much aware of these trends, and it's something that is really changing the way how we're thinking, and something that is obviously very visible in the B2B market, where you are actually putting out services on top of a lot of hardware, but that hardware needs to be top notch so you can actually earn any money on the services that you're providing. And this is where the battery and energy management is the key hygiene thing to think about. How do we know all this? Well, actually, because we are working with the best. We are working with the people who really know that this is important and really are changing their low power mindset when they're working with the development. We have clients today that are everything from the small companies, startups, to universities, to Fortune 500 companies, and also partners and distributors that are supporting this. Especially, we have great partnerships with Deutsche Telekom and AT&T, who are really making sure that anything that comes into their network today is validated and secured and checked by the tools that we are providing. So that the energy optimization, that whatever battery life is coming into the network, is not actually ruining the network itself. But this is just the beginning. I mean, we are a company that really want to be the go-to place for the developers when it comes to the energy optimization. But we are also the company that know that there is no there's not such a thing of just keeping it at the developers level. It needs to be on every level. And right now we're starting in the IoT business and moving into automotive and finally into the commercial aspect, where it's really important to validate the battery life. And this is where our SaaS is coming into play, to actually do a check and throughout the product development, as well at the end, accreditize or validate your product. It's extremely important. And this is the second stream that we are building with our business. Where we are today, yes? Yeah. It's Sorry, time. I know where we are today. We have a install base growing with 20% revenue from the software that is organically grown. We have customers in 50 different companies, and we have today, at this point, proven market fit. Where we are going now is for the pre-scale. So we want to actually scale this and prove that it is scalable, at the same time building the second stream. And just to say, we have an amazing team to do so, and this team is extremely picky on putting the people on the right place in the right time. And if we want to be, when we want to be working with new people, we really want to be making sure that this is something to help us grow. So if you're the right person, of course, please contact me to do that. We are in the fundraising for pre-scales. We are just about to close this round, and we are kind of heading upwards. Thank you.
Yeah, Michael, over to you. And Venya, feel free to unshare the screen.
Yes. Fun? So I scared Michael, so he can't.
No.
He's like, oh my God, we start with hardware. Oh, are you crazy?
No, don't worry. This is not why I'm here. So and as said, I think every year I try to get a hardware startup through.
We are not actually hardware, but okay, hardware and software. Please say.
Exactly, and that is so the hardware part is that also going forward, is that the necessary pillar? Without that you can't work? Is it rather the getting the foot into the door and then get them into the software?
Correct. It's the enabler, because what we are seeing today, that with our software that we have, we can collect any type of data, but the data that we will be collecting data from very expensive tools. So why would we do that? So we really wanted to create something that is extremely accessible to the majority of the people. It's our way to seeing that we want to democratize this. This is not something that is going to be in a lab on a corner. It's going to be on every developer's table. And because of that, then you can add on these different things. So, I mean, we see that there are going to be more, and actually we're seeing that for the last 3 years, that people are more and more going into this space. So we will be having hardware competitors, but we will not have the software competitors, because this is where we are going to be kind of flying away from them. We're going to be further away, and we could actually use the data from our competitors for the purpose of the validation and the development that we have. So that's where the kind of hardware and software are very much merged. But we do need to have this enabled today.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So correct observation. Any other
Michael,
questions from anybody else?
Yeah, feel free. We have still 2 minutes for questions.
Oh, okay, so it's only going to be me. Okay.
It's fine. Others are welcome.
Now, one thing that, what's the percentage of customers that you can actually upsell into or cross-sell into the software modules now? Do you track that very properly and see the cohorts and how they develop?
Yes, and this is something that we just started recently during 2020. So we haven't really started marketing it. It has been very much organical growth, which is we have seen 20% upsell, meaning that 20% of people who actually are using our tools are coming back. And what we have seen is that upsell is done mainly in the mid-size and large-size companies, obviously, because what they want to do, they want to have accessible professional tools, and they are not afraid to expand that throughout different teams.
Mm-hmm. One question, and as this is streamed live on Facebook, happy to, if you say, let's not discuss this or take this offline. Mm-hmm. Did I see that correctly, that your annual subscription price actually declines year by year? Yes, we have this approach where we are on a 3 years basis. This is something that we are trying now, and we have kind of role models in some SaaS companies that we are really admiring, where we have seen that their business model has worked really well. And we are actually copying with pride on that perspective, because we see that people are very keen on the stickiness goes then beyond just few different types of toolboxes. But it does not, does that hinder your expansion with the customer? Because what the typical motion would be get more expensive each year, or at least sell them more each year. So as you're getting cheaper each year, can you still sell more to the same customer?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Because the stickiness in the product, that's the thing.
Good.
Thank you, guys. I think we'll connect you guys later, and feel free to
please. Yep, sounds good.
Have a follow-up discussion. We will continue with Stefan. Stefan, please share your presentation.
Yes. So I guess you can see it now.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Stefan Boym. I'm a co-founder and CEO of SAB Solutions. So the team that founded this company, we have long experience working with logistics, and even though they use a lot of sophisticated solutions, they still do errors, and these errors cost a lot of money. It adds up to huge sums, not only from goods value, but also from all the negative consequences that they need to manage when goods go missing. Our approach is to video record what's going on with the goods. If it's a man machine, doesn't matter. And then we compute the video data together with logistics data on the edge and in the cloud. And we can detect and notify the operator if he or she is about to do something wrong. In this case, putting a parcel on the wrong pallet. And this principle can be applied to a lot of different processes in like a warehouse or transportation hub, or basically wherever in a supply chain. E-commerce is growing rapidly. The complexity thereby is going up. It becomes harder to do logistics, and the globalization adds even more challenges to that. So there is definitely a need for a new approach. The technology is becoming more advanced. You can do more and more sophisticated software on the edge and also in the cloud, making us able to enable companies to reduce the number of errors that they do actually. We bundle everything into a service, so they subscribe for a service, and everything is included, our software and even the video cameras that are needed. And basically, they sign a contract and then enjoy all the values that they get. We focus on warehousing mainly, but we also have customers in transportation, and we also have discussions in other parts of the supply chain. Some of our subscribing customers so far, some are well known in the Nordics, and some are also well known outside of Sweden and Europe. All of our customers so far testify that they get high values from using our system. They cut cost, they increase delivery precision, they save a lot of money, and they also get additional values like consumers becoming more satisfied when they get rapid response to a complaint, for instance, and they actually get it more competitive. So this relatively small customer base that we have so far still represents quite a big potential in terms of ARR, and we are scaling within the sites and also with more sites, and it is happening right now. And this list of companies also represents opportunities outside of Sweden, Europe, and we are already in discussions with like Scania and others about starting to do installations in the US and in Southeast Asia, for instance. So, and if we also add then what we have in the pipeline, it's even more opportunities, of course, and growth potential for us as a company. Third-party logistics and spare part distributions are two main segments that we are working with, but there are also other opportunities, segments in the customer base and in the pipeline. The targets that we have set for this year and next year is underpinned by what we already have in the customer base and what we have in the pipeline in terms of ongoing discussions and projects that are about to be signed. So we are confident that we are going to reach the targets for this and next year, definitely. The supply chain that we have designed support global reach and rapid scaling. We will have customers all over subscribing to the services, and our partnership with Axis and IBM will enable us to also distribute whatever is needed on site in terms of cameras and so on to get that installed as fast as possible with a local partner that will do that for us. So we are about to wrap up the second phase of building the company. We are right now doing a fundraising, which is also about to be finalized to go ahead with phase 3 and starting to scale also outside of Sweden and Europe. We have an ambitious plan to grow, but we are confident that we are going to reach the targets for this and next year. And when we get the funding, we will also start to build the organization we need to go for the targets the coming years after 2022 then. This is the dream team that will make it happen. It is a growing team, and then we have a management and a board of directors that carry a combined impressive experience and also a skill set that we need to execute the plan that we have in mind. So thank you for listening. Any questions are welcome.
Michael, over to you.
Thanks a lot for that presentation. Very precise and to the point. At Otto Group, we built up a warehouse in Istanbul, so very familiar with the problem that is there. If I understand it correctly, you're taking off-the-shelf cameras.
Yes.
But do you have a provider where you can install the software on the camera? Because if I read correctly, the intelligence doesn't rest in the cloud, but actually in the edge on the camera. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a combination. Our software will be on the camera, on the edge, and also in the cloud, of course. And we will orchestrate everything from the cloud. So we will manage all the devices, basically all the software and also, since we have decided to own the cameras, it is our cameras that is a part of the service.
You own the camera, so the customer doesn't pay an upfront fee for the camera, but it's baked into the subscription price.
We believe that makes increases the stickiness a little bit. They don't have to bother about buying any cameras. We decide what brand, what model, what capabilities that need to be in the camera to be able to do our magic.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, do they own the footage or do you?
They own the footage, but we have an arrangement so that we can use the footage for training models and stuff like that.
And that's a good segue into that, because I would assume that there is a lot of hand-holding with the customer and then training the model necessary. Now, the hand-holding with the customer, if I saw it correctly, you actually outsource that to partners, which makes all the sense in the world, because that gives you global capabilities from the get-go without having the own investment on that. On the training, I would assume that with each and every warehouse that you go to, due to the layout and the routines and things like that, the models need to be trained again. Is that correct? And how long does that take? And who does it?
It depends on the use case and what kind of process we are talking about. Of course, we are trying to make applications that are highly scalable and that doesn't need that much training. I mean, depends, as I said, of the complexity of the use case. If it's like a picking situation with a lot of different articles and stuff, that might need some additional training, of course. But if it's a simple calculation counting application, that might not need that any training actually.
No, but I think the use case that you showed with, oh, this is the wrong place to put it, that is the information that I think needs to be trained, if I understand correct. The picking situation with multiple articles, are you integrated into their backbone where they have their articles and what it actually is? Is that seamless?
Yeah, I mean, currently when we get the data, we need to make the judgment if they are doing the right thing. I mean, if they follow the process, if they pick the right number of bottles, for instance, they put them in the right parcel and so on. So that kind of, but we have a couple of packages that are ready to launch, but we have much more in mind, of course, going forward when it comes to more advanced applications. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will have our next founder, Johan Nielsen. Feel free to start sharing your presentation. Yeah, Johan, you're mute.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, maybe you can find 5 faults in these 2 pictures. Anyway, the most important thing is that the right one is having connected to. So what does connected to mean then? Yeah, let's start from the beginning. My name is Johan Nilsson. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Connectitude. Sorry for that. Yeah, there is a lot of factories out there that needs to be more effective and have a sustainable production. But there's also a lot of machine manufacturers providing machines to those factories that needs their machines to be used more effectively. But there is no effective way for them to cooperate. We have created a platform and solution where machine manufacturers and the users of their machine can cooperate to reach the next generation of effectiveness. With cooperation, we enable new ways to reduce stops, save energy, reduce waste, save time in support, and sell and buy spare parts frictionless. And we make money out of the subscription-based model, and a factory pays 800 euros a month, and machine manufacturers pays up to 2,000 a month. And this is just a pay fee, then there's a usage fee on top of that. And a system like this is something you install and then you use it for a long time. So we expect the lifetime value to be at least 100,000 euros. And if we look at the market size, and now we're only looking into Sweden, since there we are focusing right now, we have found a selection of 50,000 companies in Sweden based on sector classification, etc. We have stripped that down to 2,000 and verified them, handpicking randomly, calling them, verifying our hypothesis that they have such a problem and they're willing to pay for it. And we have landed a couple of customers during this investigation, so it's verified. And the average license cost for a solution like this is 15,000 euros a year. That makes 30 million in ARR just for mid-size companies in Sweden. But we are not aiming for that yet. We are focusing on food and beverage, that is within driving distance in southwestern Sweden. So we want to become market leader as fast as possible and then expand from there. And the best customer is the one that have already tried a solution like this, because they have matured in thinking about using digital products and they know what to ask for, and we can stand the competition. So let's talk about the competitors. We, as our customers, value ease of use and the completeness and flexibility of having an all-in-one solution. But we can look at, for example, PTC. They are large, they are well-known, they have a great product. It's complex, but it requires a huge engineering project to get it adopted. And it's also a bit diverse since it's made out of acquisitions. But if we look at the other axis, we have Ixon. That is a very easy system to use, but it's not flexible and it's not complete. And one of our last customers confirmed that we had 7 needs. You fulfill them all and so much more, yet you are so simple to use. And that is one of our ingredients in our secret sauce. The other one is that we are hardware independent. Since a lot of hardware vendors uses lock-in effects, we remove that. And then we have the connected to everything approach, which is you get everything, you can change everything, and you can exchange everything. So if you have a favorite system of yours, you can keep that and complement it with ours. So we play well with our others. And in our core funding team, we combine business, design, technology thinking into our product. And we cooperate greatly when it comes to marketing and sales, customer success, and partnerships. And we are getting fully paying customers every week now after soft launch back in 2019. And we are now aiming for full speed ahead post-COVID. So to reach full speed, we are planning for an investment around this fall. And we want to scale what we have seen work. And we have a lot of business partnerships in the making. So thank you for the opportunity to present here. And the next time you are driving and passing a factory, you can be, starting this fall, you can be a part of making that more efficient and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Han.
Thank you.
Michael, over to you.
Thank you. As you mentioned, integration, PTC, it's difficult to integrate large and complex projects. What do you do different? Why is it so? How do I integrate you and retrofit my factory? Who does that, and how long does it take?
Since we are a SaaS having an edge that we put out on factories, which already implements all those field buses, as they call the communication protocols within a factory. So we can talk to their control system in just minutes. So we don't have to put out new sensors if we can connect to the control systems, but we can also add additional sensors. But this combination of on-prem and in the cloud makes it so easy, since you have one place to configure it, and then you can have different machines in different factories. And compared to PTC, that is more of you install it on-prem, you have to reconfigure everything, it's local, you have to do it all over again in the next factory and so on. So there's a large difference.
Okay, so here you basically provide the IoT gateway out of the box that connects to to any sensor that is already there. Hopefully the customer knows where sensors are still missing, and then these are, and this is done by the customer or by you?
I'm sorry,
this is done by this integration. This is done by the customer or by you or jointly?
It's now in the beginning we're helping some of them, but we are building up a partner network of system integrators that are helping the customer if they don't have their own automation engineer. If they have a very, very small production, they usually don't have it, but then we have partners helping them. If they are a larger factory, they usually have their own automation engineers can configure in this.
And then I think your solution comes with a out-of-the-box management dashboard to actually see the facility and then everything going on. How many people are working on that on your end on that dashboard, and what's the most important part of it?
We are 10 developers involved in this, and we have a kind of list of functions and widgets that you can just drag and drop like in a visible gesture. What you see is what you get. So the customer have the same tool as we have. So what we can do is what our customers can do. So they don't need us. They don't need our specific expertise. They can do whatever we can do in the system. Since we don't want that business. We don't want helping them by our.
I'm absolutely with you that you don't want to. My experience with IoT is that sometimes you need to, even though that you don't want to. And that's actually the tricky part, because typically the customer knows, oh, I need something. I don't know exactly what, and I have absolutely no idea on how. And is that observation still correct, or do you actually meet an educated market that knows what it's looking for and how to use it?
That's kind of the reason we are going for a very focused area with this food and beverage, because we know what they have, we know what they call things, so we can create this library with their glossary, so to say, so they know what they are adding. And then we're going to the next vertical. We might use the same widgets, the same function, but we name them differently because they should know what they should use. They shouldn't have to learn our system. We should adopt to their need.
Now,
thank you, Johan. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, we'll move on to our next company, Ulf and Jonas. Feel free to start to share your screen.
Okay, my name is Ulf Gerald, CEO of Hiker. Together with me today, I have Jonas Hallin, who is one of the founders, one of four. All others working here are partners in one way or another. Some said that we are pioneers in the next generation of end-to-end encryption. So we are actually into cybersecurity area and end-to-end encryption and of course key management. These are the bullet points I will walk you through. So let's move on. It's all about reducing risk in the cloud transformation. Today we have a challenge. Everything is moved up to the cloud, and that's great risk there. And risk is about. I'll talk about that later. Risk is about money. What do? We protect information, data only. For who do we do this? It's easiest to say that we help SAS providers to protect their data. The value they get is of course reduced risk. It costs money, a lot of money, if they don't have control over this. And also, which comes along the way, is that we create trust. And why Hiker? Well, we have unmatched flexibility in the solution and zero compromise security.
Okay, so what do we do differently? To protect information, we use tools like encryption and also key management. We encrypt information in motion, at rest, and more uniquely, in use. And we do it in an unbroken chain. We use a decentralized access model. This way we can close all exposure points in the middle throughout the cloud architecture, as suggested by the assume breach approach. All this is done while still maintaining central control, such as central identity and access management, but also recoverability and similar capabilities. This package fits very well with, for example, collaboration services like Zoom, also virtual data rooms, industrial IoT, and IP protection, for example, code bases and artificial intelligence models.
If you look into the Swedish market, this is from Radar. 10.7 billion Swedish crowns is invested in cybersecurity matters last year. 2/3 of these are on reactive basis. 5% of Swedish companies, as you see here, has it in their own IT budget to be proactive in what they do when you talk about cybersecurity matters. This means that we have an increasing business, fast moving, and thanks to, I think it was Michael who said that, thanks to the pandemic and also digitalization processes all around the world, this is a perfect timing. Some of the ones that has joined us so far and in different areas are these pretty familiar companies, and we're happy to have them. And they have we started to establish this customer base rather recently. This is the team. We are at, as you see, 7 people now, and we are growing, so we are hiring more people this summer and also in the fall. And finally, Hiker is a majority-owned spin-out from Saab Ventures, and that's basically it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Now, very relevant topic for a company that is at an early stage, I would say. You have impressive enterprise-grade logos that I would say, from a sales perspective, typically give you a headache, especially in the beginning with procurement and things like that. And oh, yes. I need this and that, and does this come in pink? Why the focus on enterprise? What's the go-to-market motion, and who exactly are you selling to?
Very good question. I think basically we have connections. You talked about networking earlier, and since we are majority owned by Saab Ventures, they connected us into different areas. I mean, IBB and so forth. Actually, for example, if you take Manpower, it's a different story. It was a sort of they needed something that could secure towards the GDPR standards that is out there. And for example, Ericsson, we are now in a project with them to protect their 5G software, so they can their software can be analyzed by other operators out there. So it's a very interesting story. So this is, I can tell you that a few of these companies we recently started to work with. So it's we are really in a tunnel of strong winds.
Mm-hmm. So would it be fair to say the identification of what exactly is the right customer structure, customer size, that's all in a positive sense work in progress till we find out? Yeah.
Yes, I would say.
Yeah, good. And is that also I also looked at least what's publicly available on the pricing, and that seemed, as an investor, it seems fairly low. Is that by design? And I think enterprise is not available, so this is a different discussion then, or are you also still evolving on that?
Yeah, I would say that what's being publicly available in terms of pricing, that's a very cheap price tag. But I would say that 20% of our customers stands for 80% of our revenue. So we also have very much larger contracts, and for that deployments, we have much different functionality when it comes to enterprise management capabilities and so on.
Do you also actually already see the motion that you have customers just signing up with the lower tiers and then graduate into the enterprise segment? Is that a motion that you actually aim for, or am I just wrong here?
No, that is something that we see, that trend, absolutely. And I can also add that we're a bit in a shift in the marketing area where we're going for bigger customers. We have started with building a customer base, and that was easier and lower or shorter sales cycles, I should say, for those sizes of companies. And now we are, since I would say half a year or a year, we are seeing much bigger contracts, and that is the result of the a new direction in the strategic plan, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jonas. Yes, we'll continue with Rasmus. Feel free to share your presentation.
All right, sweet. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Good. Let's see if this works out. And you see my screen as well, I guess.
For me, it's black. I don't know about you guys.
Same here.
Same here.
Because I have some issues, with Teams and Zoom, but not with Google Meet. So it might be that it won't work, to be honest.
I can share your presentation if you want.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so we'll have to do this a bit differently, but I guess it will be fine anyway. It just adapts, right? So simplifying innovation with accessible data for the real estate sector. My name is Rasmus, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of HomePal, and this is our vision. Please change. So the Swedish market right now, with one of our products without upselling, is 500 million SEK ARR. Next, please. And right now we have a vision and goal to be the market leader in the Nordics by 2025, where we see there's 1.3 billion SEK ARR. But enough with numbers, and let's get into the juicy problem. So, do you know that 90% of your life you spend in a property, but you don't actually have the money and the possibilities to access the technology? So this is probably based on like the most valuable asset needs technology, but the main issue is that they don't have access to data. So why should real estate companies actually care about data? Because there's a clear connection between revenue and poor data quality. So when I showed these numbers to one of our clients, she actually laughed at me and said, it's probably way worse than this. But why is the data so bad? Next, please. Real estate companies have no control over the data. They have no control over the systems, and their data is very incorrect and duplicated in different silos. They're basically doing like very manual processes, and the decision making is based on gut feeling instead of fact. But what do our clients wish for? So the CEO of Vaxo wants to take better decision with reliable data. And Humle Gordon, the IT team, needs to meet the demands of the management team to digitalize processes. And the property manager wants accessible information to support his or her work. So this is our solution. We automate the collection of internal and external data sources. And then with the help of our AI engine, we compile millions of data points and make it consumable for real estate companies. So with our data platform, we give them a groundbreaking infrastructure, which makes it possible for them to take data-driven decisions, increase and improve their data quality, and actually automate a lot of their internal processes. But how has it gone so far, and how do we get paid for our services? So today we actually have eight clients, where 6 is licenses, and the combined revenue streams of the clients is 6 billion SEK. So it's quite big companies. And we also have 23 discussions and 7 pending agreements. And at the same time, we have a lot of resources to focus on getting more sources into our platform. So our business model today is a monthly license that's based on square meters in management and how many systems we retrieve data from. It's recurring and paid 1 year in front. But to support this, we also have a consulting that has to be there to prove like you said before, Michael, with IoT, like you have to show the client, you have to educate the client. And we believe that this is needed to do the consulting as well. So is there anyone else out there, and what challenges and perks do we see with our customer? So on the Swedish markets, our primary competitors is IT consulting companies today. And as we all know, they're not really scalable. They definitely have unique solutions, and their business is driven by hourly rates. But if we broaden our perspective and look outside the borders, we see that there's 2 similar platforms to what we do in France and Finland, but they're still at an early stage, and it's hard to actually know what they're doing. But as we all know, competition triggers the market, and HomePulse welcomes them to push the companies and the clients forward in the digitalization journey that we're on. So our targeted customer is medium and large sized residential and commercial real estate industry with the ambition to digitizing their operations. And we see that the sales cycles today is a challenge because it's complex sales in an uneducated market, which makes them long and somewhat unpredictable as well. But hope is actually the last thing that leaves you, almost like HomePal in the real estate sector. There will be no churn. So last but not least, what you've been waiting for, we're planning a seed round on 10 to 15 million SEK with an equity dilution of 10 to 15%. Our primary objective is to invest and expand our personnel team, handling just the customer, so sales and marketing. And this will take us to market leadership in Sweden. And our secondary objective is advancing product functionality to secure just the long-term competitiveness and the customer value. And at the moment, we have completed an agreement of 3 million SEK from our current investors, and we have not yet talked to all of the investors, just one of them. Next, please. So the team at HomePal, we are quite young, quite naive and sometimes, but we're hungry for success. And we complement this with an extremely competent board and advisors with competence from Skanska, Microsoft, Balder, the game company King, BIM Object here in Malmö. And we think with this team, we can actually succeed in what we're doing. Next, please. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, together we change the world of real estate by simplifying innovation with accessible data.
Thanks a lot for that. And maybe with data, let's dive right in. What is an example use case? What exactly is the data that you're actually collecting, and how do I make use of that as a real estate company?
Good question. When you hear data, you almost always think about energy and IoT and that kind of data. As we see ourselves, it's a general platform on top of that collects data from internal systems. It could be like a property management system, an economic system, and rental system. It can also be from an IoT platform. And then we match this and compile it in our AI to make better decisions. It's the first way to come into the companies. But the value and what happens with it later on is that we can actually beginning to work with the data for real. Today, a lot of company doesn't actually work with data in the way that they should do. And that's what the platform is for.
So is it fair to say you are an aggregation layer on top of the different point solutions that would be out there? Like, I have one solution that tells me you need to change the fire alarm, or one system that shows me the heating and stuff. And you're actually on top of that and can aggregate that into one data platform. Is that the key value, or would I buy you in order to actually see when, oh, I need to change the light bulb in the stairs?
Well, it's not just like you're in the smart building facility right now, the things that you're explaining, and that's just that's one part of it. It's not, we're not like a smart building system. You don't go into our system to change how the temperature is in a room. That's not us at all. That's more of a connectitude. What we do is that we collect the data to make smarter business decisions in the long run. So the first part of it is actually a BI solution on top of all the data, but we collect and mainstream the data from all different sources. And today the real estate industry have a lot of silos, so it's hard to connect all these millions of data points, but it's also very unstructured, which means it's almost impossible to get any fine decisions from the data today. But that's just the first step into the client. And after that, the real magic happens, where we're starting to work with the data quality to improve their processes. And in the end, we can put trigger points on the data so we can automate the processes. And today they have a lot of manual work, and they have a lot of employees that should be not so many, if I say so.
And okay, understood. I'm with you, at least to the limited knowledge that I have on the sales cycle, and also on the no churn, because if actually I'm a real estate company and I get myself to change something and implement it for the first time in the last 3 decades, then I'm actually sticking to that. What is your secret sauce in actually opening the door? How do you approach sales there? How do you manage that they actually buy something new for a change?
So our open door is actually the combining the data silos. And what we do is that once we've done an integration to one system, we can do it in 10 minutes on the next client. So which means that they normally have an implementation phase of 6 to 12 months to get out data from the system. And it sounds insane, but that's the truth. So what we do is that we come in and we visualize the data. And that's the first step to get the whole employees on board on this, because it's easy to convert the IT director or the digital solution expert, but the rest of the companies they are not that technical and they don't understand it. So we have to visualize the data, and after that we can do what we want to do, if I say so.
Thank you, Rasmus. We'll continue with Anders. Feel free to start sharing your presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Anders Oskarsson. Do you see the presentation? Good. As I said, my name is Anders. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Abstractor. Let's see. let's face it, developers, they hate testing. It's not that they don't understand the benefits of testing or that it's worthwhile doing testing, but in their organizations, typically there's a lack of strategies, there's no structure for testing, testing is introduced in late stages, and honestly, in lots of organizations, there is no understanding for the complexity of testing, a complexity that might be just as complex as the development you're doing. But what if? Imagine a scenario where you actually could help the developer, make him more efficient in his development. Let the developer, while he develops, simulate just what he needs from the environment when he needs it, and do this over and over again in increments while building the product. And in the end, the developer will have reusable, easy to maintain, and automatic tests. This is what our solution provides. Okay, so there's no one else doing this? Okay, let's face it, there's lots of development tools and test tools out there. And I will give you a few examples. Very popular, Cypress. It's a test tool that is used for GUI testing, so it's very limited in that sense. There's also specialization towards different industries. Vector is a tool that is heavily used in automotive. It's a very expensive tool. With our solution, you can do what these tools do, and you can do more. Actually, our tool is so comprehensive and so versatile, we're not seen in other solutions. So we have filed a patent, and we have a patent pending for our solution. And I would also like to say we have not raised any money for our company yet, but we will open up for investors and funding when we get into a growth phase, and we predict that will be maybe in 6 to 12 months. So we're still in an early stage. That was all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anders.
Thank you.
Over to you, Michael.
Thank you very much. So what is, as you're early in the phase, what is the key use case that or environment that you focus on?
We are actually relevant everywhere where you have communication. You have some kind of protocol-based communication. There you can use our solution to represent whatever node you want. And that can be internal to you, or that can be external to you and be third party. So we can be relevant everywhere where you have communication.
Okay. How do you make money?
We don't make money right now, but actually the core product we will provide for free because we want to get growth. We want to be our tool in the future to be the go-to solution for supporting developers and building tests. We will, of course, help our customers get started with our tool. And for that, they will have to pay. And of course, we will give them support. We have also identified areas where we will add services. It can be different kinds of services like visualization for management, load testing, connection to CIs, and lot of different things. And actually we started to build the infrastructure for that, or the architecture for that. So that's something we're looking into.
So the strategy at this point in time is get adoption high, get traction on the product itself.
Locally, and as I said, it's a very versatile and comprehensive tool, but we realize that customers need to see examples. So that's really what we want to achieve. We want to show them examples. Look at this, we did this, and you can really achieve this in a very easy way and get started very quickly.
And how big is the team currently, and how will the company look like 2-3 years from now?
Right now, we're just 2. So it's me and the CTO, and he's responsible for the development, and he's been doing this for 5 years and 2 years together with me, and before that it was like a side project, a hobby project of him. Yeah, so in a couple of years time, I guess we will need people for sales, we will need support people, we will need marketing people, we will need more developers. So I guess if everything goes like we would want to, I would say we would be maybe 30 people in a couple of years.
Okay.
That's just a guess.
Yeah. And funding is still a few months down the road, so 6 to 12 months down the road.
Yeah, we want to prove our concept and really build some kind of value before we look into investment.
How many developers use your tool currently? Ballpark figure.
We're not gone out with it publicly yet.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So it's as others here have mentioned, we used our local network, and we worked with Saab defense industry. They used our tool, and we're now working closely with a local company doing an e-health platform, and they really have had a pressure from their customers to show quality assurance, and they think we will be a very good match for that. And we're also talking to partners working with automotive, and there we're also looking to find ways to get into that part.
What's your biggest headache right now?
I would say we have. It is a challenge to sell our solution and to really get the foot in. We tried with the big ones like Ericsson and Sony and Axis and everyone, and they see it and they think it's a nice solution, but I think they don't want to be the first ones on the board. They maybe want to be second or third. So I think we will have to find these more. I think smaller companies more in the need of this. They lack the structure, and hence they're more open to adopting something. And I think by that we can prove the value.
Well, thank you, Anders, and thank you, everybody. We'll be wrapping up this session. First of all, thank you for everybody's time, and now all the founders connected, and we have a little bit later stage founder, also early stage founders. It'll be great that you guys, connect with each other and support each other. And I'm so happy to have Michael here. I'm just wondering that Michael, what would be some of the final advice for founders here today?
The final advice.
Or any feedback towards the pitch and discussion of things you would like the founders to be aware of.
Yeah, no, I think I think there is no one size fits all advice actually, because the companies, despite I think you're all a tad on the earlier side, everybody's at different stages with different things to tackle. I think the general advice, and I think you're all following that, is focus on the core currently, don't get distracted, and early on already have a view on your internal processes. When we built the startup, I think we had lots of ideas and lots of creativity without any quality assurances processes whatsoever. That was difficult because 80%, at the point when you actually hit scale, 80% of the time you used to actually try to find what went wrong yesterday, let alone fix it. So that's one. With regards to the presentations, what I liked all of them. What only one or two showed actually was how much why are we talking? How much do you want to raise actually? What's the round that you envision? That is, if that's owed to the fact that it's streamed live on Facebook, fair enough, all good. But other than that, this is a useful information simply because many funds have a minimum criteria of I have a minimum ticket of such and such, and otherwise it's become difficult. But other than that, all presentations were to the point, understandable. I could understand what is the target and how and why, and so that was all good.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And I just want to have Martin to say some of the final words of why global investors should pay attention to founders in our region.
No, I think we have a quite a unique situation in Skåne. We have a very good creativity and innovation capacity based on engineering tradition, on good education, on good cooperation between the official side and the private sector and the educational institutions. I think that brings for a mix that not only come up with the ideas, but also have kind of the structure around the ideas to bring them up into viable companies. We have lots of support mechanisms in terms of incubators and so forth, and it enables kind of the idea to reach its full potential. And that's why I think Skåne is a very interesting place for investments. And we do have a long tradition of companies that have sprung from Lund University or spin-offs from other companies that had then grown up to be international unicorns. And I mean, who hasn't heard about Oatly, the last one within the food sector, for example, that started out as a research project and ended up a multi-billion IPO many years later, of course, but it's a success story. We have companies like Axis and like ClickView that were started here but have rendered international investments and buy-ups from major international companies, and we have so many more examples. So I think it's the Skåne soil is good for creativity and for growing the next generation of ideas, I have to say. And that's why I think, and we are as Swedes maybe slightly humble. We don't like to brag. Maybe we should brag a little bit more. So we feel a little bit like a well-kept secret in this region, and we would love for more investors to discover us and discover our companies.
Yeah, thank you, Martin, and thank you for everybody. And Michael, I encourage you and your fellow investors, to connect with more founders in this region. And at the end of the session, I will connect all of you guys. And thank you for everybody for joining us today. Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day and enjoy the summer.
Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy the sun. Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.